the problems that we're having is that every time we put a lot of hard work into things, other people co-opt it.
Like, because we beat AB 1262
Right.
last year.
What happened is, because we're not documenting what we're doing and broadcasting it, it's much easier for the corporate cannabis, the lobbyists, and the middle class advocate to grab what they're doing, broadcast it, and say they were the ones that made the change, and then make change on that. And when I'm talking about change, I'm talking about money. And that's not right. Last time, we spent a lot of energy defeating 1262. We were up at the State House several times. We didn't go to the final hearing because we already knew it was sunk. We already had the tip of the hat. We organized prior to that. We raised over $3,000 to get 40 activists up to the state capitol and actually talking about what mattered to patients, right? And then it's very easy for other groups to grab that and say, me first, me first, me first. Well, AxisOfLove does not take a me first and me only approach, but we certainly don't take the approach of go ahead, take our work and use it for your funding. That is not what's going to happen this round. Last time we played kind of nice, you know, we were like, maybe we can help with some amends here. This is a no more Mr. Nice Guy sort of strategy we're going to roll out this time. Because we just need to kill this. This is, you know what they did? This is what I think happened. After 1262 was defeated, somebody said, I triple dog dare you to make a bill that's even more offensive, will cut off even more people, will kill more businesses, and will make more arrests. Go see if you can do it. And they sat down and they did it. They came up with the worst piece of public policy I have read yet. And I've read a lot of public policy that I don't agree with. And this is terrible. But I want to tell you guys before we get into the nitty-gritty of the bill, I want to tell you guys about a few techniques that they're using. So I'm going to ask you just a pop question. Does this bill in any way, shape, or form touch the letter of the law of Prop 215? No. It does not at all. So no activist should come at it by saying, you're destroying Prop 215! Because that's exactly what they want you to say. They want you to be an illiterate, unknowledgeable person about what Prop 215 actually contained. Did Prop 215 guarantee you medical cannabis? No. All Prop 215 is an affirmative defense, meaning you have a medical defense and you are allowed by the state of California to have a medical defense regarding medical cannabis. It does not guarantee you free medicine. It does not give you any civil rights. That we're so far from that. So, and why I say they're going to use this is they have in their introduction, right, because each policy piece kind of has a little introduction to it, they have this does not touch Prop 215. That's true. It doesn't. What does it do? It dismantles SB 420. So that's what you want to say as patient educators when you get out there. Not, hey, this attacks Prop 215. You want to say, do you like the fact that you can collectively cultivate cannabis? Most people say yes. I like the fact that I can collectively cultivate cannabis. You will no longer be able to do that under this law. So it's very important to kind of start talking to people around what it really attacks so that you as a patient educator aren't sort of regurgitating the ways they've already set up to shut up patients. Because you know they've got someone in the office saying, just tell them it doesn't touch Prop 215. You know? Because they think that that'll shut up any patient, right? Oh, well, as long as Prop 215 is there. Prop 215 was not the cure-all, end-all. It was just a beginning many, many years ago. It was just a little footprint that got us in the door. It was
also
not,
to help doctors feel a little safer.
Exactly. It was mostly for the professional class and the middle class to feel safer in their distribution systems and for the doctors not to lose their license. It was not so much about patients gaining access to medicine at a fair price or free if need be. And it's really sad when I see patients like, I need my Prop 215. No, you need your SB 420. Now, people are like, can they dismantle SB 420? Yes, they can, because it went through the legislator, not through the voters. When you have something that's put into law by the voters, you can't touch it. You'd have to go back to the voters. But SB 420 was sponsored by Mark Leno, and it went through the state houses. So can they dismantle it? Yes. The other spin that the lobbyists are already using, if you go to the ASA site, they put this spin on it, and you got to be really careful of this spin too. They say it's just like Tom Amiano's last bill. Well, there's two funny things about that. One, no patient advocate supported Tom Amiano's last bill, and two, it's a blatant lie, because the things that they have included this time are the reasons why Tom pulled his support last time. And there's one big thing that Tom was like, there are two big things that Tom completely disagreed with, and as our former representative, we should congratulate him for disagreeing with them because they were very undemocratic. One was that they wanted to put a cap on cultivation statewide. He would not agree with shutting down everybody for the small few cultivators to make it through. He did not agree with that. The second thing he did not agree with is what's called a carve-out. So that means you take a policy piece and you make a special little piece for a special little interest. And in this piece, the carve-out is for the city of Los Angeles. So remember, they had this terrible thing called Measure D that they put to their voters, and because certain people had more money behind their campaign, it won. And what it did was it took all of ASA's collectives and MCDs, and it made them the only ones that could operate in Los Angeles. So technically, 800 other collectives were supposed to close. The law is pretty unenforceable, but nobody wants, and nobody should be wanting to create statewide regulations with a carve-out for one city. Like, that just naturally doesn't kind of flow with making statewide regulations, because when you make statewide regulations, you're trying to create something that's fair and uniform statewide, right? That's kind of the reasoning for creating something statewide, is so that the laws are applied across the state. So Tom disagreed for those two reasons. These two things are integral, huge parts of this bill. So if you hear anybody saying, you hear any dispensary saying, oh yeah, it's just like Tom Amiano's bill, so everything's cool. Everything is not cool. That's far from the truth. And we're going to be the first sort of light bringers to this situation. We're going to be the first patient advocates really out there, not just educating the patients. Believe me, you're going to be educating any dispensary you go to, any grower you talk to. Because when did they put this in place? Right before the holidays.
So we wouldn't notice.
So nobody would notice, right? Right? You know, you feel me? Like that's every trick that they can pull, they're pulling. There's some real intense stuff in this that we've always disagreed with, and that is that patients, you know, I don't know a single patient advocate, even including the lobbyists of ASA. I've spoken with Don Duncan myself about this. They do not agree with the alcohol beverage control being the regulators of medical cannabis. You cannot find a patient advocate in our city, love, hate, or indifferent to, that will be like, yeah, let's have those guys do it. And I want to tell you a story of how I discovered how bad of an idea that really is. I was in the State House when they first started proposing the ABC thing, and you know how when they first start going over a bill, they hear from each party, the opposition and the sponsor. So when they heard from law enforcement, who's usually our opposition, law enforcement got up and said, why would you have the most corrupt agency regulating? And that's when I knew beyond the figment of anybody's imagination that these guys are far more corrupt than you would want to imagine. If you Google California alcohol beverage control and corruption, you come up with a few pages, to say the least bit. You ask any barkeep, anybody who has a liquor store, how do you feel about the fairness of the alcohol beverage control in California, and they will just go off. I mean, it's not like they don't know what they think. They go off. I'm serious. Go to your corner store and say, hey, what do you think about the ABC? And boom, they just like, they don't have a kind word, and they've got a whole bunch of other words, right? So it's not just that alcohol, the beer cops aren't the correct fit. It's that California's ABC also has a history of corruption. And when we're dealing with a corrupt public policy to begin with, people that want to bottleneck and create a monopoly, the last thing we want to give them is a corrupt agency with corrupt officers to do it with. Right? Pretty simple.
Some law enforcement said, I heard this from a conversation, and was that the ABC, the only reason people are picking the ABC in law enforcement is because they can't get a federal accommodate, like you know how like you're bonded by somebody? Well, all law enforcement agencies have to be. ABC is the only one in the United States that cannot get bonded. They've been trying for 25 years. That's the last time they were federally bonded was in Pennsylvania. It was 25 years ago. The feds will not bond them anymore. So,
why would we want those guys in the mix unless the mix is already corrupt? And we know that we have plenty of corrupt lobbyists and other folks in the mix in the back room with Jones-Sawyer. Now we need a little bit of understanding of who is Jones-Sawyer. Who is this person that stepped up to sponsor this bad bill? Well, he's a representative from South Los Angeles who is currently paying fines on corruption charges for his last campaign. He was the deputy mayor when they pushed through the terrible Measure B that was attempting to close down 800 clubs and create a bottleneck monopoly. So they pulled somebody already in the mix.
Private club.
Thank you. So, you know, are we going to be able to get some nice amendments from Jones-Sawyer? I don't think so. I think we just have to go for the kill. And see what the other representative is thinking of doing. I want to go through some of the basic things that you don't want to have happen, and that would happen if this bill was implemented. And then I want to do a little brainstorm session on what we can do over the holidays to raise awareness. Because today, originally, you know, I was thinking, oh, we should all get on the phones. But then as I'm talking to my friends that are legislative aides and political operatives and everything, those guys are already on the train, on the plane. They're already gone. They're already going home to the family. So maybe contacting them isn't as important as raising awareness online and getting some flyers to the local
Because they bring their
dispensary.
cell phones with them.
Well, I mean, yeah, and they're going to be checking their Facebooks
And their
et
Twitter.
cetera, and their Twitters, and getting I think my goal will be, tonight to find people that will help get us a petition online. Because maybe we can start a nice petition online through the holiday season and then start dropping flyers like crazy that say, no ABC for MMJ, no cap on cultivation. So the first thing that's really scary about this is the cap on cultivation. And here's the other little trick that they always use for the business owners, right? They're like, hey man, you got nothing to worry about. If you've already got your permit, you're in like Flint. What's the other half of the story? And we did this for 1262 as well. You've got to have all your cultivators registered. So it doesn't matter if your business is registered, if what is brought to your business that you sell in your business that makes your salary becomes not available to you, then you got a problem. And we're going to be the ones educating, the shopkeepers and the shop owners, like, no, everything isn't cool, because they are going to go to them and say everything's cool. So last time we encountered this, AxisOfLove wrote our city government. And we said, can you please, we're not asking for the addresses, we're not asking for the names. We'd just like to know how many registered cultivation projects are there for the city of San Francisco. Because if this bill gets passed, the patients are concerned that they won't have the strains that help them heal, and that we won't have, we want to see what medicine would we be left with legally should this law pass. So we waited about a day, and then we got our official response from the city, which was that we only had, and we had thought, when we wrote the letter, we're like, maybe there's one per dispensary, and even that would not, I hope people understand who haven't been on the cultivation side, but one cultivation site would not suffice for each dispensary. You need several to be able to do the amount of medicine that any San Francisco club does during a day. You cannot just have one cultivation site, but we're hoping that there would be at least one site per dispensary. We got back the number 8. And we were like, what? And so we started ringing that alarm, 5 alarms through the business community. You've got 8, 3 of which were owned by Spark and registered by Spark. So you'd have to be, what would have happened had 1262 passed is that there would be a limited source of medicine. And would that be the medicine that the patients have been dependent upon in San Francisco? No. I mean, I can just say that flat out, because 8 cultivation sites, no way. You would not have the variety, you would not have the strains. The price would go up, not down. Not only an outdoor cultivation cap, but an indoor cultivation cap, and that there would be a limited number of permits available. So that creates the worst, most coercive monopoly that we have ever even considered. The last thing that you want is to have a bunch of people also who have been compliant with state law becoming outlaws, becoming illegal, and pushing those patient collectives underground and only allowing the very, very 1% to actually have the legal right to become the Philip Morrises and the et cetera, right? That makes no sense. It's like reverse of any good public policy tries to bring everybody above ground, tries to bring everyone that's actually doing the practice into being regulated. You don't push people back underground after they've demonstrated that they want to be compliant. It's just the worst approach to public policy I could think of.
Vulture capitalists do it all the time.
They do. But here's the other added element to us, is that yes, with the making of concentrates, even with a simple grow room, it can be dangerous. So what you want is people to be able to comply with public safety laws. You want people to come above ground, and if they don't know how to set their stuff up right, have the fire department say, yeah, you gotta move that over there in order for things to be safe. You want that. You don't want a whole bunch of people who are producing the waxes and the oils and the medicine to be pushed underground. This is the biggest giveaway to the black market or the underground market to be unregulated, and the largest giveaway to the 1% of corporate cannabis. And they win on both strokes because you know they have their hand in both things, right? Instead of everybody else gaining further access. So we have the cap of cultivation, we have the ABC, we have just really the dismantlement of SB 420. So in 1262, we at least had the 5 patients could grow together. This one, 0. Everybody becomes illegal that has been practicing state law.
Or a consumer.
Or a consumer forced to purchase medicine that's, Monsanto-like medicine. San Francisco thrives on the fact that we have so many little boutique grows that bring really good medicine into our dispensaries. None of those folks are going to qualify for the limited cultivation permits. And the other thing you have to ask is, where's the study on this? How does the state know how much medicine patients need? How are you going to decide how many people are going to get cancer next year?
And what strains we need.
And what strains people need?
Well, especially since most patients, one needs a joint and one needs an ounce. So what the hell is that? How are you going to figure that out?
And some people want pure strains, and they really go after people who grow pure strains.
We need, as medical cannabis patients, we want our medicine to have medicine, and if we're left with large Monsanto grows being the only legal source, all of a sudden everybody that, wanted to be a legal patient is now going to be going elsewhere for their medicine because they're not going to be finding the quality of medicine that they're not only just used to, but actually helps their symptoms, their pain, or is actually curative to their cancer and etc. You're not going to find that from a Monsanto grower.
They're already limited now.
I know.
I go in different dispensaries and I see the same exact thing in all of them.
Yeah.
The same stuff's been crossed so many times, where the clone's been cloned so many times, you can see the pods aren't even open on half this shit. It's not even legitimate medicine at that point, because if you smoke one from over here and one from over here, you're really smoking the same damn plant. I've smoked literally indica and sativa that almost taste the same from 2 different places. And I know it's just because it's grown in the same place and it's been crossed so many damn times that the cross is coming out of it. I know because I grow. I know exactly what's going on.
Almost all the sativas are contaminated with indica, too.
So what you're looking at if this bill passes is a limited supply of good medicine. You're looking at thousands of family farms, collectives, all having to go underground. You're looking at only probably Hallahan and Hallahan's folks and the pink mafia, so the good old boys and the guys next door trying once again to corner the market. And to me, that's reverse of drug policy. Drug policy is enabling people to be healthy, to have good selection, to know what they're choosing, and etc. Limiting and forcing everyone else to become illegal is actually the reverse of drug policy.
You can't even make them really illegal, Shona, because they have their names and addresses now. The people who are growing right now, who are all legal people, whatever, if they make them illegal, they got their names and addresses. How are they going to keep growing?
They're not. That's the point. It's an example of greed at its worst. and it's really going to impact patients' choices and growers' abilities to provide for the patients that they've been providing for, some for the last 20 years. There's collectives that have been providing for the same patients for 20 years, you know, and now they're going to have to go underground. So we're really looking at some really drastic stuff. And one of the jokes of it is that very few cities, yes, some urban counties, but very few cities have a register for cultivators. They've just said if you're state compliant and you don't have to pull building permits, then it's really none of our business. Now we're going to need to work with Sheriff Mercarimi and our Board of Supervisors and our Health Department to register every single grower we can before this gets implemented, so that these guys can stand up and say, I am recognized by my city. So that's one plot, right? But what we really have to do is kill this in January. So I'm thinking, and I want to hear your feedback, but I'm thinking that our best approach is going to be getting an online petition going during the Christmas holiday, because while people may not feel all political during the Christmas holiday, they're online a lot. Why don't they like SB 420? Because it allows groups of people to cultivate together. So in other words, they don't want groups of people to be able to share medicine, to be reimbursed, to be able to go to collectives and etc. They want the means of production to be licensed only to them, so only they can make the profits. That's the big scary thing when you get the agreement between law enforcement and corrupt lobbyists to corner the market and to not allow other cultivators to exist legally. Outdoor cultivation to just, you know, their company brand is the only legal California brand. Come on, that's what we're actually talking about here.
Yep.
That is what part of their actual plan is.
They remind me of the Koch brothers.
That means
Worse.
no more window weed.
No more window
No
weed.
more nothing. You get nothing from me.
And of course, what they're going to say when patients call the office is you're totally able to individually just grow for yourself. You can't take, you know, your surplus to a dispensary
Right.
and get reimbursed. You can only just grow for yourself, or you could be a caregiver. The caregiver definition is super narrow. Nobody fits in it. The only people that fit in the definition of caregiver are people who house somebody who is dying and they have a grow room for them.